Welcome to Healers in Business, your guide to thriving as a bodyworker turned business owner. Join me, Jane Chevalier, CEO of Circular Path Consulting, a seasoned expert in the business of the healing arts, as I share invaluable insights, practical strategies, and heartfelt support to help you flourish in your business. Have you downloaded my 8-part business guide for healers in business? It enables you to start or grow your business with 8 simple tips. Link in the podcast comments. Welcome to episode 12 of Healers in Business, How to Be Authentically Confident, an interview with Megan Kerr. As a mindset coach, Megan draws on her extensive therapeutic training, over 2 decades of clinical and group work, and of course, her own life experience. Recovery from Crohn's disease over 25 years ago led her to train extensively in various forms of therapy, mindfulness, and healing with master teachers and coaches. In 2020, she found Creatrix, a female-focused breakthrough process, and it changed the way she works with clients forever. Having been a small business owner for 20 plus years in the wellness space, she co-founded and grew a successful brick-and-mortar business, Tahi Health and Wellness, and has since moved her coaching business full-time to the online space. Enjoy my chat with Megan. Okay, so Megan, how long have you been working with wellness business owners, and kind of what would you say you really specialize in when it comes to that?
Yeah, for sure. So I have been working with wellness business owners probably for the last 5 years, and I've been been in the wellness space as a practitioner prior to that, um, over 20 years, and so quite a long time. And I really specialize in supporting practitioners in practice to build their confidence, to overcome imposter syndrome, self-doubt, all those sneaky little pieces that are really, they're under the surface, but they're also so powerful. Once we deal with them and overcome them, that's when we get into momentum. So I'm really passionate about helping healers in business, practitioners in business, to move through those blocks that are so very common.
And would you say that, you said you were a practitioner before you started coaching practitioners. Would you say that you've experienced any of those things yourself, like the imposter syndrome and the issues around confidence?
Yes, for sure. I definitely have. Especially in the early days, because I am a naturally fairly introverted person. I'm a very resilient introverted person now, but previously, I was so driven to help people, and that was really started through my own healing journey. And then, I studied and I became a practitioner. And so I was really driven to help people. But I had such a, block, I suppose, around being visible, around standing up, around sharing my voice, around really talking about what I offer. And so it was quite a struggle for me in the early years. Like, I did really good work. So once clients came into the clinic and I was working with them, we were away. There was momentum and there was some word of mouth building. But I really wasn't a good marketer. I knew what I needed to do, but my own stuff, my own lack of confidence, my own self-doubt absolutely got in the way for a very long time.
And how do you feel like, did you feel like you overcame that, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I would still be in business now if I hadn't overcome it, because it is such a fundamental piece for us as business owners in the wellness space. And how I overcame it, I think you have to, for me, I had to become aware of it first, that this was actually an issue. It wasn't so much that what I was putting out there. And so this is obviously, a couple of decades ago. So a lot of it was still in flyers and brochures and that kind of thing, a little bit online, a little bit with a website, but there wasn't so much of the social media marketing going on. And so I had to become aware that it wasn't so much what I was doing, but the energy within me, the fear of visibility within me that was causing my output or what I was putting out into the world to really not connect with people in the way that I wanted it to. So there was a bit of there's a bit of a conflict when that happens, because we want to help people, we want to share our work with our community, but there's also a really big part of us that is really afraid to be visible. Well, this was my experience anyway, and I see it for a lot of business owners and practitioners in the healing space. And how I worked through that, well, awareness came first, and then really working through the beliefs that were in the way, that were behind that fear of visibility. And that was for me, that was a step-by-step process. I stretch out of my comfort zone. I'm more willing and more okay to face into that fear and be a bit more visible once I became aware of it. And so then I would be able to make more connections with people and with my audience. And then I would continue to grow. And then each time I would step outside of my comfort zone, I'd be faced with that next layer of self-doubt, of fear of visibility. So I use the tools that I use with my clients for myself. And that really did help me overcome those blocks. It took time, it took awareness, support was really important, and seeing other practitioners in my field having gone through the same experience and overcome it. Yeah.
And so you mentioned just a couple of important things you mentioned. So first you mentioned beliefs, and the fact that the tools that helped you are the tools that you're using with your current clients. So do you mind sharing a little bit about the beliefs that are usually going on when someone is experiencing this like fear of visibility?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it can be because if we think about beliefs, it's our words that we put to it that light up the neurons in our brain and our nervous system, right? So it comes down to what is it that's firing up in you. But to just sort of generalize around things, so there can be a both a fear of success and a fear of failure, right?
Mm.
And then that can keep us quite stuck in a place of inertia. There can be, very often for women, the women that I work with, there's some version of the belief of I'm not good enough. So that's a really core one. And that really needs to be addressed, because if that's there, then how we measure success can be problematic. If we keep, trying to prove that we are good enough, but there's such a big part of us that believes that we're never good enough or not good enough, then how we measure our success is problematic, and how we stay in momentum becomes problematic. So there's not good enough. That's all I can think of off the top of my head right now. But there's, coupled with that is an experience of self-doubt. And there will be most times a belief underneath that that's sort of driving that to be at the forefront of our experience. So it can be things like I'm a failure, I'm unlovable. It's such a broad, it can be such a broad picture. But it comes back to really being wholeheartedly okay with ourselves, however we're showing up in life. Yeah, because a lot of times there's a driver to succeed, and it's like, if I succeed, when I succeed, then I will know I'm good enough. Then I will know I'm accepted and acceptable and lovable, and all of those, beliefs that drive our behavior and motivate us.
Mm-hmm.
But that is problematic, because then every time we have a stumble, every time something doesn't go as we planned, maybe we launch something and we don't get a lot of interest, if we've got those beliefs running pretty strongly under the surface, then we're going to have very big feelings about things that don't go as we've planned them to go, And so then we can move into a lot of collapse or very low mood, because something, has maybe failed, in quote marks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, this, right, Jane? In business, you know, we have to be able to risk failure and be able to pick ourselves up. And when we've got those beliefs around that are really running the show around, I'm not good enough, or I'm never good enough, or I'm a failure, then taking those risks and being visible and trying things out and being okay with mistakes is a massive deal, and is very difficult. And very often we'll overthink things and try and avoid, subtly, subconsciously, we'll avoid taking those risks, because we don't want to risk the very difficult feelings that come when that belief is really triggered and charged.
So it's almost like just not wanting to experience those feelings.
Yeah, but it's pretty subconscious in my experience, and in my experience with clients, right? So, if I'm thinking about, say, somebody who's newer to the wellness space and they're maybe launching themselves as a practitioner, they might know what they need to do, right? So they might know the strategies, they might know the plan that they need to do, or somebody has told them. But there's a lot of overthinking that comes with that. And so when we can be okay with feeling the feelings, when they don't, send us to bed for a couple of days, when the energy around that belief has lightened. So we don't need to get rid of beliefs like 100%. It's just that they no longer stop us from taking action. For me, that's the transformation that happens, and that we can tolerate feeling the feelings that come along with making mistakes, with failing. Like, when we know that if I fail, if I make a mistake, and we have an experience of this, I, might have some challenging feelings. I might not feel good for a while, but I know that I'm going to be okay. I know that I'm supported. I know that this doesn't mean that I'm a failure. It just means that this piece hasn't worked out, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we can tolerate that, and we know that on a deep level within our body, then what I see for clients is that they're much, much more willing to make those steps, to take those risks. Yeah.
Mm. And so, what does the process look like, I guess, when you're working with the client to help kind of change, like move that tolerance ability to experience different feelings in order to help kind of change the landscape of the belief systems?
Yeah. So when I work with someone one on one, I work with a process called Creatrix, and it is a methodology that has been designed specifically for women, for how our nervous system and how our brains function. And so, with that process, we identify beliefs, chronic emotional states and self-concepts that are in the way. And I have a really particular process that helps women, helps us to do that, helps my client to do that. And then we go through a process of really resolving those beliefs. It's a methodology that's derived from NLP, but has a lot of other research behind it. And it's pretty amazing the shifts that it creates for women. And so that really rewires how our brain perceives reality, perceives the world. So that's how I work with women one-on-one, and that might take anywhere from 2 months to 3 months, probably more like 2 months, and then the rest is check-in, accountability, how you're doing, celebrating all the changes and all the behavioral shifts that they're noticing. When I work with people in a group, it's that methodology is specifically for people one-on-one. When I work with women in a group, what we lean into more is more of an organic process around beliefs and feelings and self-concepts through my training. So I used to be a psychosynthesis counselor, so I have a lot of background in working in those areas. And so we'll work more organically within the group. But there's something really, I think anyway, important that happens when we're part of, say, group coaching. And that is, the support that we receive from the other members. So I love a powerful, potent, small coaching group. And we're just coming into the last 3 weeks of my most recent one, and really seeing the shifts that have happened for, practitioners that were newer on their path in terms of their business from the start, and the confidence that they maybe lacked within themselves when we began. And then that piece where they actually feel and know within themselves, these people that are around me, these people I meet with every week, they've got my back. Maybe they've been through this journey that I'm going through, and they wholeheartedly support me. And when that happens, there's still the other more personal coaching that goes on, but there's something that really shifts when we can let ourselves belong and feel supported within a group that does support us. Then our confidence grows, and we're okay with wherever we're at on our journey, be it a new practitioner or we've been doing it for quite a long time. I have seen so much change and powerful transformation happen in that environment.
Wow. Yeah. I think most people typically view one-on-one as like the bigger package, but after you just described it in a group setting, like you're right, they have so much more support, and like witnessing other people going through the changes, like that's very, very powerful.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And we've had a more, somebody who's been in business for quite a long time, and her business is really thriving. And what she can offer somebody who's really new, it actually surprised me, because this person that had been in business for a long time, she said to the person who was starting, the woman who was starting out, hey, you know what? You do belong. And if I had had this support when I first started, oh my God, it would have saved me years of struggle, of frustration, of upset, just to have that support and to understand that, yeah, I'm supported. We all go through these challenges, and it doesn't mean that anything's gone wrong. It's just been really powerful for me to witness as the facilitator of the group. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And is there a reason that, number one, you're working with women, and number two, like the method you use, the creatrix mindset, confidence, building method, that it's specifically targeted for women? And I guess, like, yeah, what is it about women specifically that really benefit from this work and really need this work.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, I've been in practice for a couple of decades, and I haven't always solely worked with women. I've worked with, all genders and been really open to that. And I think in recent years, I've seen my colleagues and my friends struggle, I think, to find their confidence in the wellness space. And that's become something that's been so important to me. And I'm a woman in midlife, right? I'm 52. So there's a lot of women around me that are going through perimenopause and menopause. And there's a real that can be a very challenging time because our physical experience is changing, there's challenges coming up, we can't rely on our energy so much. There might even be psychological and mental health issues arise caused by the hormonal flux of perimenopause. And so for me, what I saw was that there wasn't the support for women done through a female lens that meant that we weren't having to squish ourselves into some kind of rigid linear box, right? And so I wanted to really open the doorway for women to come home like authentically to themselves, to do it their way, but to also succeed in a world that maybe and really has not been set up for the way our female brains and our nervous systems work, because we are not, I'm generalizing, but we're not linear in terms of our energy. I mean, even, so a woman in her menstrual years, her energy is going to flux throughout the month. She'll have some times of that month where she's really energized, where she's really extroverted, and then other times where she'll want to be more inward looking and her energy will be lower. So to then expect that I can just consistently put out the same and have the same momentum through that month, it becomes problematic for sustaining vitality and for sustaining our business, right? Because there's so many women when we come into midlife, we do start to burn out. And we're like, I just can't do this anymore. I cannot keep going in this straight line that I've been doing because my body is asking me to do something else now. And so I wanted to create an environment where women can be authentically confident and be wholeheartedly themselves. And like I said, in a world that's not really set up for that. And Creatrix, as a methodology that I work with one-on-one with women. So this might be a little bit off track, but the founder of Creatrix, the woman who created it, amazing woman called Maz, she studied NLP, like all of the NLP. And what she found was that it was really well suited to men and to male brains. But she found with her women clients, they were maybe doing some of that work and they were getting some results. But then a few months later, they were coming back and exactly the same thing, exactly the same problem was presenting.
And can you quickly explain what NLP is? I'm so sorry for those who don't
know.
know.
That's okay. Yeah. Neuro-linguistic programming, right?
Oh, okay.
And so it's a change methodology or a change form of, right?
Okay.
And so in her experience anyway, that was very well suited to the way the male brain works. But with women, we have the brain in our head, but we also have the consciousness in the brain in our heart, as do men, but our connection to it is different. And then also the consciousness and brain in our uterus, in our womb, right? And so all of these aspects of self are talking to one another. And so to not go into massive detail about it, but our approach to how we support women to be their best selves, and the transformation process that we take them through takes all of that into account. And anyway, for what I've seen, for the women that I've supported through this process, because I think I learned it about 2.5 years ago. And so it's been fairly recent in terms of how I support people, right?
Mm.
Um, it it just creates change so quickly. It creates permanent change so quickly that when I first learned about it, I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that it could do the work that it does. But having experienced it and having taken quite a number of women through it now, um, I'm just so thrilled to be able to offer it to my clients. And whether you're in business or you're not in business, to be able to not have those beliefs and those self concepts run our lives and hold us back is such a powerful place to live from.
Oh, oh my gosh. Yeah, I just got chills. Like, when you explained all of that, that makes
Yeah.
complete sense. Like the brain and the uterus. And I love the name Creatrix because it's like that's where we create is in our uterus, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think that's so beautiful. So I'm like, I'm ready to start the program, Megan. Sign me up.
Excellent. Let's talk.
And I know we're talking a lot about women and how specifically what you do is for women, but I do
Sure.
think like a lot of the men in the wellness space that
Mm,
I work with, a lot of
mm,
them have a lot of feminine energy. And I
for
think like a
sure.
lot of men with that have a lot of like that feminine energy, obviously they don't have cycles, they don't have uteruses. So,
Yeah.
like you said, it's different, but a lot of them are attracted to the healing space. And a lot of them, I believe, have that sensitivity. And again, it's different because they're not
Mm,
going through the different cycles throughout the month and all of that. But um, I wonder if you would think any of what you do would be applicable to like a man in the healing space who tends to have a lot of that feminine energy space.
yeah. And I think in terms of we're all humans, of course, so there's going to be crossover, absolutely. And yeah, for sure. Because when we're healers, when we're called to this profession, there's a degree of sensitivity. There's often a degree of an introverted nature. And really, I think, being introverted, being a healer, it becomes our superpower, right? It's incredible. We have a strong capacity for empathy. And that, those qualities are not limited to one or more genders. So, I certainly don't want to exclude men or other genders from the conversation for sure. Because when we talk about, if I'm more introverted in nature, that's something that is really powerful for me as a healer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it can also be a hindrance initially when I'm trying to put my work out there in the world, when I'm trying to build an audience, when I'm trying to speak to my prospective clients. And so the work I do seeks to really honor that, introverted quality as an example for you as a healer. But then also, what other qualities can we bring in? And often, can we bring in that supports you to be more out in the world so that people can actually see you? Like there's this sort of sometimes for us as healers, because many of us can be highly sensitive, highly introverted in nature, and we're so powerful energetically that we sort of hide ourselves. So we might be thinking, I'm doing these posts, I'm putting out information, I've got an offer out into the world. But energetically, our our potential clients can't quite grab on. They can't quite connect. They can't quite see you. And so that's part of the work that I do with people is how can I honor and really uplift this deep sensitivity that I have, which makes me so good when I'm working with someone one-on-one. But how can I lean into maybe other values that I have that support me to actually be out in the world a little more, that support it's like my energetic signature just to come forward a bit more so that I can be seen by potential clients. I know this is a really like a subtle piece that I'm talking about, but it's also really key for when we're building a business. And so for clients, I'm thinking of a few in particular who are maybe at the start of their journey and they are struggling with that and they've identified it. What I support them to do is to actually lean into their why. Like, why are they doing this? Why is this work important? And why is it important that your next client is able to see you, to feel you energetically, so that then they can reach out to you and potentially, you can work together. And so we're bringing that why. I support them to, like bring in their values and really lift those up and energize them. Because for me, anyway, that was a really helpful piece in kind of getting out of my own way, and getting over oh, I'm introverted, I'm sensitive. It's, a big, noisy world out there. But what became more important for me than that stuff, which was true and still is true, right? But I shifted my focus away from that and into why is it important that I'm doing this work? What lights me up about this? Why am I in this field? Who do I want to help and why do I want to help them?
Wow. Yes. Yeah. It just, the energetic signature and attracting
Yeah.
other people with similar energetic signatures or people who want to be aligned with that energetic signature.
Yeah, it's an important piece, hey?
Yeah. I think that's so powerful because, yeah, everything you said, absolutely. But, like who you are as a healer in the treatment room doesn't really, I mean, I guess personality kind of matters, like making the whole experience, but it's like when you're
Yeah.
actually in healing mode doing your work versus when you're out at like a networking event talking about what you do. It's like almost can feel like two different people that you have to be sometimes. And so I think that's really important to use that as a North Star of like focus on your why and that everything behind that energetically for your energetic signature and kind of just trying to use that as your guide when you're outside of the treatment room and talking about what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, for me, like leaning into that helped the rest to line up. And so rather than me going into, maybe a room full of people and it might be a networking event and feeling like, oh, shit, all of these people, I'm actually going into that room being myself, being more authentically myself. And what's now in my mind is, hey, you know what? I might make a connection with one person in that room that in this moment uplifts them, in this moment creates some kind of connection. So that's been a helpful tactic for me to really relax when I go to those sorts of events of I don't need to show up trying to be someone I'm not, but can I show up and be open, be relaxed, be friendly, make a connection, even if it's with just one person? That can be a really helpful shift to make, I think, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And would you say that's like the same thing as feeling confident or exuding confidence?
Yeah, look, so that word confidence, for me, I've wrestled with it, right? Because I, in, so I'm Kiwi, obviously, I'm from New Zealand. In New Zealand, we have one of our strong values is being humble. And it's kind of weaved throughout our conditioning. And I know it is in other countries and other cultures as well. And so then I had this struggle between putting myself out there, being visible. Am I now like trampling over this value that I was so conditioned with around being humble? And so that was a conflict for me that I had to really work through. And the place I landed in has been, my confidence is about being wholeheartedly at home with myself, in my imperfect self, in my sometimes messy self. I'm okay with that. And I am open and really willing to connect. So that's where my confidence comes from. It comes from inside of me. So that, you know, no matter what happens externally in my world, no matter how many times I fall over or how many mistakes I make, can I truly accept myself exactly as I am? And it's not like we have to be perfect with that. I don't have to have that 100% of the time, but if I can have that a lot of the time, I think then our natural confidence in who we are can be expressed out in the world, rather than trying to make myself fit into a box that, you know, was created by someone else, by another set of conditions. And it's, you know, when we sort of try and put confidence on as an external face that we show the world, that's where it can be quite maybe fragile or brittle. But when this is how I see it anyway, when we are deeply connected to ourselves, we're at home with ourselves, when we know who we are coming from that place of offering value and joy and fun, or whatever it is for you, out in the world. That's when your natural confidence shines. That's when we're more present with ourselves. And I think, you know, when we see someone who's present, who is open, who is, you know, able to look you in the eye and meet you on that more subtle level, that's honestly, that's the kind of confidence I'm looking for. I'm not looking for that brittle, fragile bravado that is sometimes, maybe we think that's confidence. I personally don't think that's authentic confidence that I guess I'm attracted to, right? Just as a person in my world. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know if that answered your question.
No, no, it definitely did. Like, yes, I completely agree. That internal, like full encompassing, full circle, being at home with
Yeah.
yourself and being present. Yeah. Versus, like you said, just kind of like that superficial putting on a show, knowing how
Yeah.
to be an extrovert. But yeah, it's not.
But underneath you're not, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like treating the world like it's a stage, like that Shakespeare quote.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, and attracting the others who are coming from that space too, who want to meet you right there.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and I think that, you know, that confidence as a healer is like knowing inside yourself, you don't have to be everything for everyone, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you get to be yourself and not hide away, that's an important piece. There will be, your next client will be there, and your next client, and your next client. You are exactly what they're looking for. And when you can come home to that confidence within yourself, that's very, very helpful and very magnetic for our business and our
Mm.
practice. Yeah.
I love that. This has been just so inspiring, Megan. Thank you so much.
My absolute pleasure. It's been great speaking with you.
Is there, I feel like this is like the perfect note to end on, but is there anything else you want to share? Anything else you think is important that you haven't been able to speak about yet?
Yeah. Oh, there is one piece, and I think, mm, yeah. So that this is the thing I will end with. I think I started my career as a practitioner, as a counselor, as a healer, um, because of my own early attachment woundings. And I think that's really common for us as healers, as practitioners, but that's okay. It doesn't mean anything's gone wrong, right? But as I went through as I've gone through my career as a practitioner, and my own stuff has continued to heal, because for me it has been a lifelong journey. How I show up for my clients has changed, because I suppose the wound that maybe started this all, within that wound is also your gift, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
as we continue to heal, and as we continue to show up, and our business grows and our practice grows, there's a level of shift and transformation that takes place within us as well. And so when that happens, how we want to show up for our clients and what our offer is might start to change. And so that has, but I'm talking about over the course of a decade or a couple of decades, that does become an organic process. And if, someone were listening to this and they notice within themselves what used to light them up for, in terms of how they offered their work of working with clients, that used to light them up, and maybe it doesn't anymore. The piece I would speak to that, and maybe you've been through that yourself, Jane,
Mm-hmm.
but the piece I would say around that is like, that's okay. And it's okay for our work and our business to grow and change over the years. It doesn't mean I did anything wrong initially, or I got it wrong initially. It means that my business itself is going through different developmental stages.
Mm-hmm.
And so there'll be times of great activity, then I'll be, more integrated and stable in my work. And then there'll be maybe a dying off phase, a pause kind of phase in my business. But of course, after the death, energetically comes the rebirth. And I have experienced that a couple of times through my business and with my career as being a practitioner. And so I think that's an important piece just to keep in mind, maybe if you've been in your business for a little longer and things are starting to maybe feel like, I don't know, maybe they're going a bit stale, you're feeling a bit stale in your work, that it's natural for things to be born energetically, to stabilize, then to go through a dying phase and to be reborn again. Not to get too esoteric on it, but I've definitely seen that pattern play out in my business and in other practitioners' businesses as well. And it can be a really exciting time of renewal if we allow the natural seasons of our business to flow.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense, because like if you think like when you're a healer and you are moving developmentally through different phases, it's like, well,
Yeah.
you're like you're healing and growing and changing, and it's like you're shedding layers and moving out of different
Yeah.
phases. So if you're experiencing that internally and personally, it almost makes sense that it's going to automatically happen on that professional level too, and like they're kind of like both intertwined.
Absolutely. They are, aren't they? Yeah, because this is our life's work, yeah.
Yeah.
We came into this because we have this deep passion to serve, to help people, to create in this form. Yeah, so it really does make sense that that intertwined on that level.
Yeah, and like of course you're going to grow and develop and change and move into different stages, and some of them might be attached to the first stage you're in and you're integrating it, and
Mm.
others you're letting go and adding on different ones. That makes complete sense. And that's also reassuring and very validating that you said it's okay. You don't need to feel like any negative feelings about the fact that you're developing and moving into different stages within your healing work.
Yeah, I think it can be a helpful lens over the course of our business and our career as a practitioner and healer, for sure.
Mm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I do feel like this is a really big topic that we can continue to dissect and move forward with, but I do feel like we got so many nuggets of wisdom and insight in this conversation. So thank you so much, Megan.
You are very welcome, Jane. My pleasure.
And so how can listeners who are listening to us right now, how can they find you if they want to connect?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me is just connect with me on Instagram. So my handle is Megan Cares, and I'm sure you'll put a link in the show notes, but it's spelled MEEGANCARES. So Megan Cares. That's really the best way to connect with me.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Megan, and we will connect with you soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Jane. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Healers in Business to discuss true confidence with Megan today. Join me next week for episode 13 for a solo episode where I discuss the ever taboo topic of raising your rates.